So you can tell that I'm getting a bit fired up just thinking about this and telling you about it. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another British English conversation with me and my mum. So, Mum, how are you today?
I'm very well, thank you. Yes, I'm here again, completely out of my comfort zone, but ready to start and just have a bit of a chat. How are
Perfect. You
you?
see, well, I'm not bad. I cannot complain. It's the weekend when we're recording this. It's Friday. So this is my last little bit of work before I call it a day and finish working for the week. And, it's good to catch up with you once every fortnight and, see what's been happening in our lives. So we're killing two birds with one stone. So, just like 2 weeks ago and in other recent times, I've chosen 8 different conversation questions or topics, and we're going to take it in turns to ask each other and have a chat about it. And I'll try to explain any of the advanced vocabulary during the conversation and recap it at the end of the chit chat. So, let's begin with the first question. And it's all about nicknames.
Mm.
So I'll begin by saying that, to be honest, I never really had that many nicknames when I was growing up. People might sometimes call me Lou or Luby Lou or Lulu, but none of them really stuck. None of them were actually used by the majority of people. So to be honest, I've never had that many nicknames. People just call me Lewis, and that's it. But Mum, how about you? Do you have any nicknames, or did you used to have any nicknames growing up?
I think growing up, I just had the odd nickname. And when you talk about Luby Lou, I think that was me and Dad when you were
Uh-huh.
very cute. And sometimes we'd be just like, oh, Luby Lou. But I always called you your full name, Lewis, even though your friends sometimes would say Lou. But yes, growing up, I was part of a little group of children, and I was the youngest, so I was presumably the cute one. And the older boys used to call me Booley, and I think that was stemmed that came from the fact that my first name is Julie, and my second name began with a B. So they transposed the first letters of the first name, surname. So I was Booley instead of Julie. And Dad used to call me his little shadow because I followed him everywhere. But I never really. I think it's more of a guy thing, are the nicknames. Like you were sort of saying, shortening things.
Okay. Yeah, it's true that usually I think the normal thing that people do, especially at school, is when you see someone's surname, then you might add like a Y to the end of it. So a common surname could be Smith or Short. And then you might call that person, Oi, Smithy, or Hey, Shorty. And this is done with quite a lot of different surnames, not all of them, of course. But given that my surname is quite long, then it doesn't really have a good ring to it. So, you know, I never really had that many nicknames. I'd say the one that was used the most was Lou. And it's true that in my group of friends, not everybody has a nickname, but if I've got a few friends who are called James, then most of them would be shortened to Jimmy, which is strange because Jimmy doesn't actually shorten the name. So who knows? And let us know in the comment. Do you have any nicknames? And if so, do you like your nickname? Because I know sometimes people will be given nicknames and they hate the nicknames. So they can't wait to leave school to get rid of that nickname. Now, let's continue with question number 2. And this one is also about childhood, and it is about toys. So, Mum, what toys did you play with growing up?
Well, I wasn't a girly girl. I was what they called a tomboy. So I was happier. My grandparents lived nearby. quite a big sort of area with it, so you would often find me up a tree. I'd so I would be climbing trees. We had a little tree house that my grandpa made. We had a rope swing. So I was more of an outdoors person, but my older sister, she was quite girly. And we had the Tiny Tears doll. So because I was the younger sister, they bought me a teeny tiny Tears doll, um, which is quite hard to say actually. But and it came with a bottle of milk, which just basically what you intended to feed it. But that wasn't really my thing. I was the one who cut the hair off the doll, thinking "Give it a new hairstyle, maybe it'll grow again." And obviously it didn't. Luckily, I had quite blonde hair, the same color almost as the doll. So I can remember being a bit worried and cutting some of my hair off and sticking it on so you couldn't see, which mum realised instantly. But hey ho. And also, there was the British equivalent of a Barbie doll, because Barbie is quite an American thing. Obviously, a lot of children like your sister played with Barbies, but we have the English equivalent, the Cindy doll. It's a little bit less glamorous, I think. And because I was younger, Cindy had a little sister called Patch. Now that was perfect because Patch had a checked shirt and dungarees, so she was quite a tomboy too. So that worked quite well. Now I do remember you having different things and collecting things, but I remember Pokemon was one of your things. Do you remember?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Yeah, Pikachu, Charmander, Squirtle, Bulbasaur. I'd say Pokemon was probably the thing that I was most obsessed with, most addicted to. That
mm,
I used to play Pokemon cards. I would also watch the cartoon on TV as well. But above all, especially in particular when we went on holiday in summer, I'd always take my Game Boy with me and I'd
mm.
play different Pokemon games and I'd get so into it where I'd be using my imagination and thinking that I was one of these Pokemon trainers walking around on my own at the age of 10 with different Pokemon and battling other Pokemon trainers. Genuinely, the amount of times that I wished that the Pokemon world actually existed is countless. When I think, oh, I wish I had my own Pokemon, I could do all this. So Pokemon was definitely one of my favorite toys. I remember playing with Beyblades as well, where you had like spinning tops basically, and then you'd let them rip into this mini arena, and then they'd also like battle each other. I'd also play with some different, like maybe not dolls, but some toys that'd be like nice and soft, but I don't remember any of the names for this. Lego as well, I played with a little bit, and Duplo, which is kind of Lego, but thicker, bigger pieces. So there are so many different toys that I remember playing with. And another one, which I actually mentioned to my friends yesterday, is that one of my first memories was arriving home after being in Australia together, and it was Christmas, and then seeing that we had this amazing Christmas present, which was some kind of pirate ship from Playmobil. And I don't remember playing with it, but I remember the moment of arriving home and seeing it waiting for me and being like, oh, Santa's been, Father Christmas has been. Yay!
Oh, you were so excited. I remember that. But
But
luckily, you all did a lot of outdoor things, which not really toys, but you had the footballs and you play out a lot doing that. And we had goal posts in the back garden, and there was like a bald patch where the grass had been worn away when your friends came and you were all trying to save the goals. So yes, my lawn's much better since you grew up.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I also did a little bit of skateboarding as well. I went through quite a lot of different phases, I think. But let's move on to the next question. But first, let me just go over a couple of words and phrases that you used. We had one which is a tomboy, and this is a girl who's into stereotypically boys' toys and activities. And the opposite is a girly girl, which is someone who is, into dolls and Barbies and dressing up and those things. And you also used a nice phrase, which was, hey ho. So, hey ho is almost like saying, oh well. So, like, oh well, hey ho, a way of moving on. It's one of these nice fillers, which isn't used that often, which is why I picked up on you using it and I've written it down. So, hey ho, let's keep going.
Very old
And
fashioned.
it is a little bit old fashioned, but I like it.
I think
What?
as well, I worked in a school. I sometimes will say different things. Like obviously, you make sure your language is always really, really nice. You have to be careful what you say that young children don't pick up on any language which isn't appropriate. So I think sometimes it's just like, oh, oh no, you know. Anyway, moving on.
No, no, no. There are lots of these alternatives to avoid swearing. We're not going to get into that today, but perhaps I'll go over it in another video where instead of swearing, you use different words. And this is what children would be familiar with because their parents, of course, they wouldn't swear in front of them. So they use different vocabulary. Now, the third question. So this one's quite a deep one and a vague one, and quite a difficult one to answer, I think. And it is, what's one thing that you are proud of? So I could say that I'm proud of starting my own business. I'm proud of running marathons. I'm proud of a few things, but it's not something that I think about too much. Or maybe I don't give myself that much credit for achievements that I actually managed to, to get and to achieve. So I know I'm putting you on the spot, Mum, but what would you say you are proud of?
Well, obviously, you and your sister. I'm proud of the people that you've become. I know. Because you're nice people, and nice is underrated. If somebody says nice, it's a bit wishy-washy, but you're just really kind. You both work hard, and you would help somebody if they needed it. You can be polite, and that to me is really important. And obviously, I've worked hard over the years, and so has your dad, to buy a nice house, but you can't really be too proud of that because that's just a material thing. It doesn't really count. It's nice to live somewhere that's comfortable, but it's not really an achievement in the way that bringing up children to be good people is. So, hey, and I'm not one anyway. I'm not a boastful person. I'm not going to sort of say, "Oh, I can do this or that." That's just not in my nature. So I'm quite not shy, but I don't particularly like it when people are sort of, "Oh, yes, that's this." Even if people sort of say, "Oh, yes, my son's earning all this money and he's so important." And I'm thinking, is he healthy? Is he happy? Is he nice? Is he kind? So, yeah, I've got quite old-fashioned values, and morals. So I think, it's more about how people turn out rather than what materially they've got. And you're not really materialistic, I would say. You're more about experiences.
No, exactly. I'm not very materialistic, neither are you. And speaking about your morals and your values, I think I agree. Well, I definitely agree. And I think most people watching this video or listening to this podcast will also agree that, of course, health comes first, being kind comes first. It doesn't really matter what your possessions are if you're not a nice person. So, of course, that should be the priority. So yeah, we are on the same page. We see eye to eye. And a couple of other nice phrases you used. One was a phrasal verb to bring up, which is to raise. So you brought me up, you raised me. And you said you're not a boastful person, which is someone who likes to boast, to brag, to, show off when they're always talking about their achievements, what they've done, their qualities. So neither of us are boastful people. And another one which is very advanced is wishy washy. You mentioned that You are proud of me, and thank you. And you said it sounds a bit wishy washy. And if something sounds a bit wishy washy, it's like, typical, stereotypical. It's maybe not very creative. It sounds a bit wishy washy. So it's a very, very advanced adjective. But now I'm proud of you too, Mom.
Thank-
Now, moving on to another question. It is the fourth one, and it is about clothes shopping. I think any regular listeners or watchers of this channel will know exactly how I feel about clothes shopping. So I'll get into that in a minute or two. But first, let's hear about you, Mom. How do you feel about clothes shopping?
Um, It's not really my thing. Some people love to go shopping. If I go shopping, it's nice to go with your sister and we'll combine it with lunch. But to be honest, since I became a grandma, I look at toys more than I look at clothes. But I do like nice clothes. I want to look good for your dad, for me, just to give me a bit of confidence. But I tend to do quite a lot online. It's just that I don't particularly like to try things on in shops. Years ago, it used to be what they called communal changing rooms, where everybody sort of got changed in front of each other. That thankfully is long gone. With people now, it's the individual sort of cubicles, so you can close the door and go in front of the mirror and see how you feel. So sometimes, if I'm not sure of the size, it can be useful, or if I want to see what the material sort of feels like, then I'll do it in an actual shop. But I'm I'm not really that much. I am more of a keyboard shopper. I will sort of just think, oh, well, I'll just, and I tend to go to the same shops as well, the ones which online that I know or that, I know the quality of it. So I'm not very adventurous.
Well, it turns out that we're pretty similar in the end. Of course, I don't do a lot of shopping at all. Um, and I don't like going to shops either. Ugh, I can't stand trying on clothes, and I don't know why, but I always get hot and sweaty in the moment of taking off my clothes to try on other things. Why it happens, I don't know. But it makes me feel self conscious and a bit embarrassed because when I'm trying on a t shirt or a shirt or whatever, then I can tell that I'm getting hot and sweaty. And then the thing that I've just tried on, now it's sweaty as well. So then I feel a little bit guilty, but also self conscious. And it's just not pleasant at all. And then because I'm very minimalist when it comes to what I choose to wear, I'm I'm not attracted to seeing different designs and patterns and fabrics and stuff like that. I just keep it very, very simple. And online shopping as well, like if I need to buy something, of course I would rather order it online and have it delivered. But I'm never scrolling up and down on different websites looking for new jackets and clothes. I just don't enjoy it. But that being said, I do need to buy a few things now that summer is around the corner. I could do with some new shorts, and maybe I could get another pair of jeans. So I'm thinking, all right, I need to go shopping at some point, but I keep putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. But at some point, I'm going to go. I'm going to do it. I've got to face my fear.
Oh, and you do when you come here, just to make it easy, because when you go between the countries, you just are very minimalist. Then you just have a backpack. So I just tend to like, right, I'll have in two black t-shirts, two white t-shirts, job done. But you just shower a
Sorted.
lot. You put yourself down a bit then, but you're a very clean person. Um, but yes, you have nice fresh clothes. Yeah, but you're just not. You don't want to sort of put your head above. You don't like to stand out from the crowd. So yes,
No, no,
yep.
no. It's like,
Oh,
yeah, I keep putting it off, as I mentioned, meaning I keep delaying it, postponing it. I keep putting it off. And another nice phrase that you used was, that's long gone. So the idea of these communal changing rooms, which sounds horrendous if you ask me, luckily that is long gone, way in the past. It doesn't exist anymore. Okay, lovely. The fifth question is a nice phrase as well. So first I'll explain the phrase, and it is a pet peeve. What is a pet peeve? Well, a pet peeve is something maybe small or insignificant that gets on your nerves. That it annoys you, it frustrates you. So, what's your biggest pet peeve? And I'll begin with mine. Uh, and I've got two, which are kind of related. Maybe I've got more, but I'm only going to tell you two. And it's related to people walking. So, I'm quite a fast walker. I walk a lot. And when I walk on my own, I've often got my earphones in. I sometimes take advantage of that moment to record a video or two as well. But often I'm walking quite quickly, quite fast. And there are times on the pavement or sidewalk in American English where you'll have maybe a couple in front of you and they'll be walking really, really, really slowly. But not only are they walking slowly, they'll be walking and kind of zigzagging from side to side. And me, as a fast walker, I want to get round them and I want to overtake them. But then if they're walking so slowly and then they keep zigzagging, I'm like, how do I do this? So I try to overtake them. And usually what I'll do is just cross over to the other side of the street and see if it's empty over there because I don't know why. And I'm sorry for any slow walkers out there, but it gets on my nerves when people walk really slowly in front of me and don't allow me to get past them. And related to that, if I'm walking with a friend or my fiance, sometimes there'll be two of us walking on the pavement, and then you'll see there'll be another two people coming the opposite way. So usually you've got just enough room for maybe two or three people to be on the same pavement at the same time. And I'm the kind of guy who will maybe move back a little bit and go to the side a little bit to allow other people to move past. But then I realize that I do this 9 times out of 10. But then the other people, they don't move at all. So then if I don't move, they're literally going to walk into me. And I'm like, but aren't you thinking the same as what I'm thinking, that we need to maybe move to the side? So you can tell that I'm getting a bit fired up just thinking about this and telling you about it. But these are my two pet peeves: slow walkers and then walkers on the pavement who don't even think about moving to the side to prevent like crashing into each other. I've got it off my chest now. Uh, Mum, what do you think about this? And what's your biggest pet peeve?
To be honest, I can agree with you. There is what I call strolling along, and they're just gazing around, and I'm, excuse me, I just stop to look at something. But yeah, I'll do a couple of different ones then. So I'll do two as well. Um, Cinemas. If you go to the cinema and somebody has a bag of crisps or something which makes a lot of noise, so they're opening things and they're just, I don't know, if somebody's nearby and I can hear them sort of chomping or chewing, I really don't like it. But similarly, if I sit next to your dad and I'm having something to eat, like a packet of crisps, I feel self-conscious because I'm thinking, this must be so annoying. So I don't sit next to him. I'll sit in the other chair rather than on the settee so that he can't hear me chewing. So I have a bit of a phobia almost about noisy eating. And the other one is that I'm trying to sell my mum's house. And it's a lovely house and we've had lots of viewings. But the bit that is my pet peeve that really irritates me is that somebody will book a viewing with the estate agent, and they just don't turn up. Now that is rude. If you don't want to do it, that's fine. You don't need to come and look at the house, but please just pick up the phone, just say, I'm sorry, we changed our mind. But to have somebody go to the house and then wait, and then they try to ring them and they just don't answer. And I'm thinking, who does that? It's just rude. But hey, I mean, hopefully the house will sell anyway. But we don't need them. But just just it irritates me that you're making somebody waste their time and you're not sorry. But hey, apart from that, I don't have a lot of things. I'm quite easygoing. There's not many things that irritate me. They don't bug me really, so it's fine. Not many pet peeves.
Excellent. Perfect. And yeah, it doesn't bug you is the same as saying it doesn't annoy you, frustrate you, or irritate you. And other words here that you used was if somebody doesn't turn up is the same as if somebody doesn't show up, if they don't arrive, if they don't appear, and on the settee. So there are three ways to say this. And in British English, it's quite common to say the settee, which is the sofa, and the sofa is the most neutral word, maybe. And then you also have the couch. So if you're on the couch, on the settee, or on the sofa. And a couple of words that I used when I was getting fired up was if you get fired up, you get kind of passionate about something and possibly angry about it. But yeah, I got it off my chest. So I said it, and now I feel better. I got it off my chest. Okay, the sixth question is quite a generic one, and it's just how do you normally sleep? How well do you normally sleep? And again, I can begin this and I'll go back to you after because I say most of the time I sleep well. Most of the time, if I'm very busy and I've done exercise and it's been a long day, I fall asleep relatively quickly most of the time. Not always, but usually that's the case. But I'm a little bit of a light sleeper. So then, if I'm already asleep and I hear a noise, a random noise, then it will wake me up. And when it wakes me up, it's hard to get back to sleep. So then I might have to go to the toilet, go for a wee, get back in bed, and then I'll start counting sheep to try to fall asleep again. So I'd say maybe 75% of the time I sleep well. But then maybe a quarter of the time, it'll either take me a while to fall asleep, or because I'm a light sleeper, just the slightest noise will wake me up and ruin my night. And then maybe I shouldn't do this, but if I feel like I've woken up in the middle of the night or I can't get to sleep, I will check my phone to see the time. And then if I see that it's 3 o'clock in the morning or something like that, and I think, oh no, my alarm is gonna go off in 4 hours, then I enter a kind of spiral and it makes it worse. So then I can't get to sleep because I'm thinking, I've only got 3 hours left. I'm running out of time. So most of the time I sleep well, but definitely not always. What about you, man?
Well, I'm a light sleeper too, so I do sort of hear noises. If dad is away, then I'm a really light sleeper because I'm a little bit more nervous. But generally, I fall asleep quite quickly. But then the annoying thing for me is that because I get up at least 3 days, I get up very early. On the days when I can sleep in, when I could have a lie in, I still wake up early, and that is just so annoying because and your dad, he can just snore. I can be getting ready. I'm thinking he's still asleep. But yeah, I sleep quite well. The only other thing is that we quite like to go for some weekends away. So if we go for a weekend away, we go in a nice hotel. And for some reason, the first night I never sleep well because it's a different bed. There are different, so quite often with a hotel as well, I think it's a security measure that they have to have a light on in the corridor. So there might be a little chink of light under the door. And things like that, or just, I don't know, a smoke alarm that'll have a tiny red light. And for some reason, that just seems to make it. I think it's a different place. It's a different bed. So I just sleep quite badly. the first night, but the second night, I'm used to it. It's all good. I can sleep well. I can get up, look forward to a nice cooked breakfast, and it's fine. I just think I'm so used to my own bed that I have to adjust to somewhere else.
No, I know what you mean. This sometimes happens to me as well, where the first night you wonder where you are, and as a result, you maybe can't get to sleep, or you start really, really focusing on all of these little lights that you might see. And then it's like, okay, it's going to be a sleepless night. You're not going to sleep a wink, so to speak. And a couple of phrases here that are useful. To sleep in, phrasal verb, is to sleep in, to sleep until late. And it's actually more common, at least in the UK, to say have a lie in. So on Saturday, I try to have a lie in. And well, tomorrow, when we're recording this, right now it's Friday. So hopefully tomorrow morning, I will have a lie in. And I'm not going to set my alarm. So my alarm isn't going to go off. To go off is to sound, to ring. Lovely. Question number 7. This one's a bit of a weird one. And I'll ask you, Mum, straight away. It is, what was the last thing you did for the first time? So, the last time you had a first experience. Hmm.
Right. I may have mentioned this before, but I have been trying to learn Spanish for a number of years. I started at a night school, then there was the pandemic, so I sort of moved away from that. I just did something online, and just recently I've started doing sort of like a group sort of class of a night school, at night school, which is basically it's a college which has students during the day, and then you go in the evening. So my class is 7:30 till 9, and that's great. But I just needed something extra. So I have an acquaintance, somebody I know who's a native Spanish speaker. So for the first time, she and I spoke as like a FaceTime yesterday. It was lovely. We've always had somebody else who can help translate. So obviously we did have to use our laptops when we got a little bit stuck, when we sort of ran out of enough vocabulary. But it was really, really nice. And we'll do it again. And I think the more we do it, the more comfortable it will be because hopefully we'll build our knowledge. I definitely need more verbs. I seem to say I have, I want, I did, I went. So I just need more to have a more rounded conversation. But yeah, that was a first for both of us and it was really enjoyable.
And I'm sure it will be very beneficial for you as well, because of course, the more you speak, the better you're going to get at speaking. I say this quite a lot, but of course, it's not the same listening all of the time compared to actually speaking, because they're related, they're transferable skills. But if you don't actually practice speaking, it's going to be very difficult to improve your speaking. So you are on the right track. Let's see how much progress you make. And
Crossed.
in my case, the last thing I did for the first time is probably a sport that I took up last year, but I didn't really stick with. So I started this sport, but I didn't really continue with it. And it is paddle, like paddle tennis. And I remember I bought a couple of rackets to do it with different friends, and I was never that dedicated or motivated, but it was something that I thought, oh, it'd be nice to have an extra hobby. And most of my hobbies tend to be exercise and sport. So I thought, oh, paddle tennis could be the thing. It could be what I could get into. And I did it a few times last year, maybe a total of 5 times perhaps. And since then, I haven't really done it. I haven't really stuck with it, which is a shame. And I'd like to, but then it's hard to fit it in my schedule. So let's see if in the future I start doing it at the weekend when I've got more free time. But then on a Sunday, I feel a little bit lazy. But yeah, off the top of my head, without thinking about it too much, trying paddle was the last thing that I did for the first time. Now, last but not least, we are on to the final question, which is a nice simple one, a nice easy one. It is, what are you up to this weekend? What is your plan for the weekend? Mum, what are you going to do?
I'm actually going to support your dad. He's basically by trade, by profession, he was a photographer and he still does a lot of photography in on a freelance basis. But the other passion is cycling. So he will do road races, but he also likes mountain races, and it's the first one of the season that he's been free to go to, and it's quite local because sometimes we travel the miles. So I'm going to go and cheer him on, and hope that he doesn't crash. He actually does have form. He did one time come back after a race, which is actually in the same place. It's a place called Tong, and he had a broken ankle. Um, but we're hoping for good things tomorrow. But last time he drove home with a broken ankle, so I'm going with him tomorrow. But hopefully it'll all be well. I think it's going to rain, so it might be a bit slippy. But that's okay. It keeps him fit, and there's the camaraderie between all the cyclists that they're basically friends that he's known for many years as he's gone up through the cycling stages. You sort of start off and obviously he's what we class as a veteran now, or I think even a grand veteran, a grand vet, which means he's quite old. But I think it's like 60 plus and then 65 plus, but it's keeping him fit, so it's great. So we'll do that one of the days, and the other day is the big food shop. So basically, that's when you go and you get a lot of food for the weekend. So you or for the week ahead. What happens is that we do a big shop, but then obviously if you're needing something, if you run out of, say, grapes or I don't know, some milk or something, then you will just pop to the shop and just get a few little bits and pieces, just a few things like that. But generally speaking, I do a big shop so that then we have a lot of choice. So that's not very exciting, but it's necessary. And as you know, I love food and I like the variety. Maybe we'll try something different, and hopefully we might get a takeaway too. I do love, well, it's called the Agra, which is near us, and it's a really, really good Indian takeaway. So if I'm really lucky, or if your dad wins, we could treat ourselves. We could celebrate with a takeaway. What
I
about you?
mean,
What plans?
I'm jealous now because I would love an Indian takeaway and I'd love to have a curry. So maybe I'll get a takeaway as well, but it probably won't be Indian because the Indian food back home is a lot better, in my opinion, compared to the Indian food that you can get in Brussels. So usually I don't try that much Indian food here in Brussels, but when I go back home, oh, I make the most of it and I have as much curry as possible. But speaking about my plans, well, today is Friday, as I said. After we finish recording, I'm going to go for a run because it's not raining at the moment. And then after that, we're going to go to a kind of show, which is going to an area. I don't know whether I'd class it as a show, but it's an area that has like flowers and plants and stuff like that. So we're going to go check that out and just walk around and maybe have a drink after as well. Let's see. And then tomorrow it's supposed to be nice and hot and sunny. So if that is the case, then maybe a picnic in the park. Who knows? Whether it happens or not, I'm not sure because nothing is set in stone. We just have a few ideas of possibilities if the weather is good. And then Sunday, I'll probably also go and do a big shop and stock up on different fruit, vegetable, meat, fish, carbs, all of these things that are a part of normal life. But as you said, maybe they're not quite as exciting as other things. But no, that is my plan, more or less. But I'm sure we will play it by ear as well. We will adapt depending on the weather and what happens. Lovely. So, before we say goodbye, a little recap. Let me go over the key vocabulary. And I'm going to start with the most recent stuff because you mentioned a few nice things. Two lovely phrases. One was to cheer on. So, you're going to cheer dad on, which is to support him and encourage him, not to be confused with cheer up, which is to try to make someone feel happier when they're a bit down. You also said you'll pop to the shop, and to pop somewhere is to go there quickly and return quickly. You also mentioned camaraderie, which is this, I don't know how to put it, but a way of saying that people who are playing in a team or they're part of the same group, they'll get on well and have banter, so they have camaraderie. Remember, sleep in is the same as have a lie in. If your alarm goes off, it sounds. If someone doesn't turn up, they don't show up, they don't appear. And I was getting fired up, passionate, speaking about my pet peeve, but I've got it off my chest now. And I said I put things off, like shopping. I delay shopping. And if something is long gone, it's a long period of time in the past, it's almost forgotten. If you bring up children, you raise children. And a boastful person would boast or brag or show off. If something is a bit wishy washy, maybe it is a bit stereotypical or not that interesting, let's say. It's a bit wishy washy. Then, if you say, hey ho, it's an old fashioned way of saying, oh well. And then finally, we have a tomboy and a girly girl. So they're kind of opposites, which are used when you have little girls, and a girly girl would be more stereotypically girly, and a tomboy is more into these stereotypically boy things. But of course, maybe this is something that is a bit more in the past. And as we progress as society, we might stop using these terms. But yeah, that's a recap of all of these interesting words and phrases. And Mum, it's been an absolute pleasure, as always.
You're very welcome. And actually, just really quickly, I remember the good thing about having an older sister is you got to play with all the kitchen things as well, which you really enjoyed. So yes, so that's like you said, things will progress and children won't be stereotypically one way or the other. Everybody can do everything. But
I
yes,
mean, related to that, I remember dressing up and wearing girls' clothes when I was a little kid as well. So,
yeah, that was your sister's influence. I can remember she'd put music on. I think she just liked having a little brother that she could say, "Do this, Lewis, do that," and you just went along with everything because you were just so easygoing. But yes, it's been lovely to talk to you again. And if anybody's watching, I hope you've enjoyed it. Our chat, and we'll see you again, hopefully.
exactly. So, thank you everybody for watching. And yeah, please leave a like. And if you do enjoy this, we'll share it with someone else who might be wanting to improve their British English. So, that's it from us. Thank you, everybody, and see you next time. Bye bye.